always knew you had to be willing to die to even do this job. But I don't want to push my chips.
The movie No Country for Old Men arrived at a time when the Hollywood industry was at its lowest, and within a short while it changed the industry's popular narrative. Up until its arrival, no movie had done much at the box office, but No Country for Old Men gave hope to viewers and critics alike. Even after many years, the initial spark seemed not to wane. But do you know there is more to all you know about the movie? Brace yourself as we unravel hidden secrets about No Country for Old Men. Number 1. The movie is a product of a book adaptation.
Well, when you were in the process of, how do you know when it's time to let it go? How do you know when the book...
This isn't the first time a worldwide movie has adapted a book's writing. Neither will it be the last. Over time, we have seen great movies draw inspiration from books and novels, and guess what? This movie was also adapted from a book. Many months before the Coen brothers made No Country for Old Men, they stumbled upon a book that completely changed their perspective and storyline for the movie. At the time, they were focused on creating a lasting piece using the book To the White Sea by James Dickey, when producer Scott Rudin hinted to them that he had acquired the film rights to Cormac McCarthy's No Country for Old Men. The news immediately shifted their focus, and within a short while, they found themselves working on it as well. McCarthy, without mincing words, is a legend when it comes to novels, and with his pen, he has given hope to the writing world, churning out some of the greatest novels in the history of literature, including The Road. He also wrote the screenplay for the immensely bleak film The Counselor. So when the Coens knew it was the rights to his book that were bought, they leaped for joy and got to work immediately. Number 2. A poem inspired the title.
Pound steer, you can slaughter a 600-pound steer. That makes sense.
Right.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, that steer is great.
He's of the region.
Often, producers and directors in interviews have given reasons behind the creativity of a given title. When they do, viewers can't help but be amazed at how something unexpected can change the perspective of a movie. Did you know that when the directors set their minds to begin rolling, the title became a problem for them? The reason was that they wanted something that would do justice to the storyline they were about to communicate. So they brainstormed for a while, hoping to pull something from their archives, but to no avail. However, light shone on them when somehow they became acquainted with a popular poem, Sailing to Byzantium, by the famed Irish poet William Butler Yeats. Within a jiffy, they connected the dots that were missing, and the title arrived with such ease, No Country for Old Men. Even though McCarthy's book played a vital role in re-engineering the storyline, they also had to source a conducive title, and today, the rest is history. Number 3. Josh Brolin had to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that he was fit to be cast in the movie.
But before we do that, you came, I gather, from Los Angeles, right?
I came from Los Angeles to here, yeah.
Yes.
Sometimes, featuring as a cast member in a movie demands going out of one's comfort zone to show how capable the actor is. It's even scarier when the producers handling the project underestimate the capabilities of a person, forcing them to work twice as hard just to secure a favorable spot. It isn't new that actors have to go through turbulence, even though it was favorable to them at the moment. When the casting for No Country for Old Men began, Josh Brolin, the phenomenal actor, was caught up in the busyness of the industry, and to get away with it, there was no other way than doing the unthinkable. As prolific as he was in the movie as Llewellyn Moss, he didn't achieve this by wishful thinking. Instead, he was selected for the cast by giving the directors no reason to doubt his performance. Initially, he wasn't on the Coens' radar as the first choice, as they had wanted Heath Ledger for that role. The reason is that he would connect better with the role and subsequently deliver an outstanding performance. However, that couldn't happen because Ledger had a fatherly duty. At the time, all he wanted was to spend time with his daughter, as he had noticed a crack in their bond. On the flip side, Brolin saw it as an opportunity to show the world what he was capable of. He devised a strategy, and fortunately it worked for him. He put together an audition reel that gave him the leverage to secure a meeting with the Coens. There, he convinced them that he was capable, and they had no choice but to give him the benefit of the doubt. Years later, Brolin couldn't be less grateful for that platform because it changed his life forever. Number 4. Location for the shoot was partially used. During pre-production planning, locations for different scenes are allotted for easy shots, and if there is a need for a change of location, it will be communicated appropriately. This has been the usual routine for many years, and the guidelines that follow a given movie. However, during the making of No Country for Old Men, a distortion occurred in the entire location process. Before the cameras began rolling, Texas was initially selected for most of the scenes, as it had the kind of background needed for the shoot. However, suddenly the whole plan changed, and most of the shots were barely taken in Texas. It was meant to be shot in the vast expanses of West Texas, but just as the cast was preparing for the allotted scenes, the location was changed. This time it wasn't going to be West Texas, but in New Mexico. The expanse of New Mexico became the new set, and the bulk of the movie was shot there. Initially, this didn't sit well with the cast, as they provided several reasons for their concerns. However, after a few weeks, their panic turned to happiness when they felt the quality of the set and couldn't contain their joy. Even the U.S. crossing border scene was shot in New Mexico. Indeed, New Mexico was a game changer that housed most of the interesting and famous scenes in the movie. Number 5. The movie broke records held for many years.
What'd you get for that thing?
You don't need to know everything, Carla Jean.
I need to know that.
While many celebrated the screenplay's dexterity, they were unaware of the hidden agenda that all would later appreciate. When the movie premiered, it faced stiff opposition. However, it rose to the challenge and flew above obstacles, setting a record that many of its contemporaries had not even considered. It's safe to say that the movie was a trailblazer for subsequent films. At the time, the Coens had won an Academy Award for Best Original Screenplay for Fargo, and Frances McDormand, who played a pivotal role in the movie, was awarded the Oscar for Best Actress for that film. But all those accolades were in terms of Academy Awards, and little did they know they were one step away from witnessing one of the greatest moments that would later become a historical feat. Within a short time, No Country for Old Men won the big awards, the Oscars. At the time, it was unbelievable because no movie prior had achieved such exceptional success in terms of sales, viewer appreciation, and awards. However, when the movie arrived on the scene, it paved the way for other films. Even after many years, viewers can't forget its timely sacrifice that brought the Hollywood industry to where it is today. Number 6. The blood used cost them a lot.
No. Well, this fella Javier is a real bad guy, and so my characters...
Staring vividly at the movie No Country for Old Men, you would notice that so much blood was spilled. However, that didn't come without a price. Before the producers could achieve such a hallmark with those scenes, they required some significant sacrifices that most producers wouldn't want to make. No wonder No Country for Old Men is called a game changer. It's for a reason. Getting fake blood isn't very easy to come by because of the threats it poses to human health. The fake blood that was slated for use contained sugar, and it wouldn't work for every outdoor scene. So it was either that they forgot about it or paid the accrued estimate for as much as they intended to use. And guess what? The producers opted for the latter, willing to pay any price, even if it meant the bitter end. The producers finally agreed and coughed up a whopping $800 per barrel. This wasn't just the beginning. They were willing to pay up front for every fake blood that would be used in the movie. They did this in confidence, knowing that in years to come, critics and viewers alike would remember their sacrifice and give them their flowers. This isn't one of those flicks that happens in the movie world. It was truly a show of commitment, belief, and unwavering resilience to make anything work that has to. Thankfully, they did, and what was seen as a minor sacrifice turned out to be one of the biggest hits to come out of the Hollywood industry. Number 7. The source of Chigurh's hairstyle was quite odd.
I'm looking for Llewellyn Moss.
Did you go up to his trailer?
Yes, I did.
Well, I'd say he's at work. Do you want...
While many are yet to know this, as they have been lost in the euphoria of Chigurh's performance, no one has thought about how he achieved that hairstyle. His hairstyle, a trademark that gave him a lovable status even among the entire cast, was nothing less than spectacular. But have you come to terms with the fact that it wasn't personal creativity, but from a quirky old source? When it was time for the cast members to hit the set and commence shooting, the producers considered something that would capture viewers' attention. And how they were going to do that, no one knew at the time, not even the supposed cast. Suddenly, they began asking themselves questions that would later usher in the character's makeup. Instinctively, they said, what if we give Chigurh a very distinct hairdo? Without wasting any time, the Coens agreed and decided to make something, but not out of thin air. They got a photo from a picture of a man at a brothel in 1979. They were able to piece something together, and truly, it worked perfectly. At first, Bardem wasn't thrilled as he had gotten a haircut. It was a bit weird for him, but for the sake of the movie, he obliged. It has been quoted repeatedly that Bardem always exclaimed that he wouldn't get laid for the next 2 months, which amused the Coens to no end. Despite all his curiosity and little awkwardness, he performed his role beautifully, and no one can say his impact wasn't felt in the movie No Country for Old Men. Number 8. Viewing from the radar of reality.
Yeah, I'll give you a wallop.
You all got camping supplies?
Tent poles.
Mm-hmm.
You already have the tent.
The movie is far from being accredited. Every movie comes with a preceding storyline that must be followed accurately. Sometimes the storyline is based on a true story, while at other times it is fictional. However, if you take the time to view the rhythm and progression of the movie, it will be quite difficult to truly fathom the source of the storyline. Did you know that the storyline that eventually became a worldwide sensation was a combination of real-life stories and fiction? However, one of the scenes that became so famous among viewers was fictional. In one of the scenes, Chigurh makes use of a captive bolt pistol, but he also uses a shotgun with a sound suppressor. As real as it was, there was some sort of fiction added to it. Often silencers in movies are exaggerated in terms of their effectiveness and power. However, the silencer that was on the shotgun has an entirely different concept. In real life, nothing like that exists, as it was only introduced to make the scene perfect. The Coens knew what they were up to, so they achieved maximum results by swerving in unnoticed. Number 9. Tommy Lee Jones didn't give up his quest for justice.
For maybe 2 different things. He liked the character a lot more than I did.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, what did he like about him, and what didn't you like about it?
It's easier for one to just fall into the midst of a pursuit because of the challenges and obstacles that arise along the way. Truly, it takes more than courage to overcome difficult challenges, and to be honest, not everyone will reach the finish line. No one knew what transpired between Tommy Lee Jones and the producers of No Country for Old Men until it was revealed. Remember that Jones played the determined Sheriff Bell in the movie, delivering a performance that even fans could attest to. However, at the time, it was a roller coaster, but no one knew that he was going through one of the darkest moments, which he didn't share with anyone. Kept a straight face throughout the movie. After the movie premiered, everything came to light, and many couldn't believe he went through all of that. In 2008, Jones took courage and sued Paramount for the bonuses that he had not received. It came as a shock to everyone, but he said that was the only decision he could take at the time. However, the deal was settled in 2010 when Paramount acknowledged that studio attorneys had misdrafted his deal. It wasn't a one-time battle, but a long one that housed a feast of arguments, legal tussles, and surprising truths. Jones was eventually awarded $17,500,000. It was something to behold, as even the attorneys were not spared. Paramount sued those attorneys, and they were asked to pay a ransom of $2,600,000. Number 10. The Coens recorded their first commercial hit since they began directing. There is a saying that no one knows their lucky day, and it is absolutely true when success comes chasing them. Sometimes it happens when you least expect it. The Coen brothers weren't truly prepared for what was coming because they had never believed the movie would skyrocket so fast. However, when it happened, they were more than grateful. Contrary to what many had thought, No Country for Old Men made $171,600,000 in profit worldwide. Up until that time, they had no major success until No Country for Old Men came to the scene. So it's safe to say this movie gave them their biggest hit ever. Not just that, it rose to an enviable status by the fall of 2010. It became the third lowest grossing Best Picture winner, not adjusted for inflation, and not many films have surpassed it. What began from a point of nonchalance took the world by surprise, making the Coens famous and at the same time wealthy. It was a breakthrough for them, not just in terms of viewership, but also in terms of their global recognition. This is proof that consistency, hard work, and resilience do far more good than harm, regardless of how long it takes. After this movie, the Coen brothers became more daring in their filmmaking, establishing themselves as a prominent name within the Hollywood industry. Number 11. There was a struggle for who finally won the role of Llewellyn.
Man, you're not dead.
What's this guy supposed to be, the ultimate badass?
No, I don't.
Did you know that there was a big tussle in choosing who would become the cast of Llewellyn? Many actors struggled to play that role until the director concluded. Garrett Dillahunt played Wendell, who works under Sheriff Bell, and with his role, he brought life to the movie. However, before he secured that role, a small rift had developed which significantly altered the atmosphere, ultimately determining who would emerge victorious. Several actors were tried, but none could hit the role with the precision that the Coens wanted. However, when Garrett came into the scene, the order was reversed, but not without a price. He got the role after being seen multiple times by the Coens during their search for an actor to play Llewellyn. What many didn't know was that Garrett went out of his way to prove his authenticity. It was hard for the directors to believe until it hit a threshold they couldn't say no to. By that time, he had gone through several stages of trials with no success, but he didn't give up. It was reported that Dillahunt auditioned a whopping 5 times to play Moss, but was instead cast as Wendell, the deputy. In commitment, he took it and went on to create something tangible from the role. Number 12. Javier Bardem almost missed out on the role that gave him a platform to thrive.
It's not real, look at that. Here you go. It's not real. It's not real. It all comes off.
It's quite unfortunate to know that the iconic role that significantly contributed to the career of Javier Bardem would have slipped out of his hands if he hadn't been careful. This isn't about professionalism, but about how he could have lost it all due to scheduling conflicts. Not many directors can tolerate incessant attitudes. However, the Coen brothers were calm enough to suggest ways they could make things work. This was quite thoughtful of the brothers. It shows that sometimes empathy rules over everything. It is hard to imagine anyone else playing Anton Chigurh, the face of evil in No Country for Old Men. If it hadn't been him, maybe the movie wouldn't have received the recognition it earned after its premiere, and many years later. He naturally gave the movie the kind of attraction that compels even passers-by to get a quick glimpse. His role, as we know it, is synonymous with Chigurh, and when he was cast initially, even the Coens feared for him, but he eventually proved them wrong. However, scheduling almost kept him from taking the role that went on to become the viewer's favorite scene. What he didn't know was that while he was drowning in scheduling conflicts, someone was standing by to take his role. Mark Strong was just on standby to snatch the role if nothing was done, but somehow he came to order, resolved his scheduling difficulties, and went on to deliver a masterpiece that shook the world. Bardem is nonetheless called a genius for a reason, and he deserves it. Number 13. Josh Brolin's accident almost cost him his role. No one wishes for something bad to happen, and when it does, it takes great strength to pull out from its devastating effects. Strange casualties on and before a shoot most times can't be predicted, as no one truly has the entire format for staying injury-free. Things just happen, and the best thing to do is to find a way around it. Josh Brolin understood this long before he found himself in unforeseen circumstances, and when he did, he employed positive energy. Brolin broke his shoulder in a motorcycle accident 2 days after winning his part in the film. At first, he was blown away, but somehow he gathered himself, saying this was not a death sentence. There had to be a way around it. So he decided to face his fears. One time, in an interview, he gave a review of what happened the day he almost lost his life. It was a near-death experience, heard from the horse's mouth. He remembered thinking as he flew over the car that hit him, saying, "Shit, I really wanted to work with the Coens." While he sat on the hospital bed reminiscing on what the outcome of the movie would be without him, a stream of hope flowed through his heart, and he knew something good was going to happen. Fortunately for him, the accident didn't stop him in the least, nor did his injury hinder his role in the movie. He couldn't be less grateful because his long-held desire to work with the Coens came to pass. Number 14. A change in script became handy. During filming, before a movie hits the screen, it undergoes several stages, one of which is a possible revision of the script. However, it is for the good of the movie, so it can accurately evoke the emotions of its viewers. Did you know that some of the scenes added to the final cut were originally not part of the script? It was a combination of creativity and timing that produced most of them. When you view through the lens of creativity, you would see the missing link. One of the scenes that came in was when the Coens thought of making the opening murder scene the most brutal of the movie. They thought it was true, but just when it was going to be manifested, they realized that it wasn't going to be feasible at the moment. And why was that? There was a major constraint, and that was when they remembered that handcuffs could cause excruciating pain, thereby causing great damage to the recipients. Therefore, the Coens devised an alternative that suited their intended purpose, and truly, it worked. When they realized that the handcuffs would cause irreparable damage if placed on someone, they decided to use a harness. A harness was attached to Deputy Zach Hopkins, running right up his back, and the handcuffs were attached to the harness. To make it easier, prosthetics were placed around it. This is one of the most visible creative improvisations that the Coen brothers implemented, and fortunately, it worked for them. Number 15. Chigurh's boot was on special demand. Some roles and characters in a movie require specific attire to support them. The truth about it is that if it's not rectified, nothing else can suffice for a well-documented scene. The very first time cast members saw the boots of Chigurh, they were all filled with contemplation and questions, and no one could speak out due to his intimidating appearance. One day, a cast member took it upon himself to find out the reasons behind their authenticity. And guess what? His doubts were cleared. Chigurh's boots were made specifically for the film. They weren't readily available elsewhere. Before the camera began rolling, an order was placed, and before they could even say Jack, it arrived at the abode of the cast members. Mary Zofres, the costume designer, created something spectacular that even if one had thousands of dollars, it would still be difficult to find. She made something out of nothing, stealing some creativity from an alligator. She was keen on making them look bumpy, pointy, and grotesque, as if they could kill somebody. How she managed to create them was quite shocking. Nevertheless, it reveals the level of commitment she had given to her craft. They were made to reflect Chigurh's disconcerting character, and if you truly pay attention, they weren't an inch away from the truth. After the cast members got the answers they wanted, they kept their distance because they didn't want to fall into the bad books of the actor. Number 16. The Coens didn't like the idea of casting Kelly MacDonald.
The idea of thinking about them as movies, but this one seemed unlike, I think, his other novels.
Even the best actors, before becoming worldwide sensations, went through several no's. So it isn't weird at all in the first place that the Coens didn't initially like Kelly MacDonald. But when they knew what she was capable of, they couldn't help but be sorry for treating her as less deserving. While Joel and Ethan were passionate about Javier Bardem for the role of Chigurh on set, they had something else in mind for MacDonald playing the role of Carla Jean Moss. It was something they had to think deeply about before they could hear her out. During an interview, McDonald vented about the challenges she faced in the early stages of the movie No Country for Old Men. She explained that her first meeting with the directors caused her emotional distress that she had never faced in her life before that time. She felt so dejected that she began to doubt her abilities. Though this meeting wasn't formal, nothing tangible initially came from what they discussed. I was obviously not from West Texas or anything they were looking for, so they were just very like, "You seem very nice, but what's going on here?" They thought the casting director had gone a bit mad, but then I read a couple of scenes and it all made sense. She eventually got the role and went on to receive a BAFTA nomination for her performance on that day. Number 17. A disruption not planned for.
I literally can't believe it. One will finish the other sentence and they complement each other. They're constantly complimenting each other.
Consider how you would feel as a director or a cast member if, upon arriving on set, the location were disrupted by something you were unaware of. During the filming of No Country for Old Men, stormy weather wasn't the only problem they had to deal with. They also faced an uncanny disruption that affected their shoot. While the crew members were in Marfa, Texas, having a good day of filming, they were disturbed by another movie that was shooting in the same small city. They were caught off guard, and at the time there was nothing they could do to stop it. The movie There Will Be Blood was also filmed in the city. One day, while Paul Thomas Anderson, the director of There Will Be Blood, was testing some pyrotechnics, a large cloud of smoke gathered around the Texas metropolis. It was so bad that it was visible from where the Coen brothers were filming, and when they saw it, it compromised the quality of their shoot. They had to shut down immediately. The cast members were furious, but the Coens calmed them down, stating that sometimes things happen, even when one doesn't predict them. Aside from this minor hiccup, both producers were recognized in their respective fields, and they ultimately became friends. Number 18. The thunder was not faked.
Not the one thing.
Yeah, none of that explains your man, though. He's just a goddamn homicidal.
One thing one can't predict during a shoot is the fact that the weather can fail you at any time. No Country for Old Men was shot across multiple locations, including Nevada, New Mexico, and Texas. Sometimes, they had to deal with changing dialogue based on weather conditions, as it was filmed during the summer of 2006. As beautiful as it sounds, you would think the weather would provide the best, but no, it did the contrary. Instead of supplying the crew with dry, sunny, perfect weather necessary for a shoot, it did the opposite. It got to the point where the Coens could bear it no longer, and they decided to shoot regardless of the weather conditions. The crew was forced to film amidst multiple thunderstorms and lightning that threatened to disrupt their shoot. It was the only option they had at the time, as time was running against them, and they were behind schedule. But to their greatest dismay, every one of those shots came out perfectly. When asked about some of the storms that happened in the movie, Javier Bardem told W Magazine that thunder is real. Co-star Josh Brolin added, "It would rain like a monsoon for 10 minutes and then be gone." This was also not exclusive of the fact that weather forecasts had predicted blue skies. Truly, it may not have been what the producers were expecting. However, it created a perfect scene that cannot be overlooked even after many years. Number 19. A familiar briefcase.
Where'd you get the pistol?
At the getting place.
Did you buy that gun?
No, I found it.
The main plot of No Country for Old Men began when Llewellyn Moss stumbled across the bloody scene of a substance deal gone wrong. It was something interesting to watch because, thereafter, Moss finds a briefcase containing $2 million and takes it with him, resulting in the Mexican gang, as well as Anton Chigurh, trying to track him down to retrieve the money. But so that you know, this isn't the first time that a briefcase full of money has been the reason for the unexpected troubles that erupt in a movie produced by the Coen brothers. Maybe it is a trademark for them. Don't really know. But similar circumstances happened back in a movie they handled before. In a 1996 movie called Fargo, they incorporated a briefcase into one of the scenes, and trust me, it wasn't out of place. The striking thing about it is not only that they used a briefcase, but also that the briefcase was the same one used in Fargo. It's possible that it came as a result of the kind of storyline that pioneered No Country for Old Men. Yet we cannot rule out the fact that there was a repetition of the briefcase. Nevertheless, the Coen brothers are indeed worthy of every accolade, as they did exceptionally well in bringing a combination of action, comedy, and real-life elements. Number 20. The mariachi song Certain scenes in a movie are unassuming, as they often turn out to be the best, leaving viewers unable to stop talking about them. No matter how short they are, they just have a way of stamping their signature in the hearts of movie lovers and critics alike. Around the midway point of No Country for Old Men, there is a scene where Llewellyn Moss is lying in the street, injured after escaping a chase and shootout with Chigurh. There, Moss is discovered by a mariachi band that stands over his lifeless body and awakens him from his slumber. Looking at the scene at first glance, you can't help but fall in love with it. And even when the mariachi song comes on, it's a different ballgame altogether. Well, if you translate the mariachi band's song into English, you will be blown away by the amazing things you discover. The translated lyrics read, "You wanted to fly without wings, you wanted to touch the sky, you wanted too much wealth, you wanted to play with fire." With this knowledge, you can understand what led Moss to the situation in which he finds himself in the movie. His desire and greed to keep the money he stumbled upon at the beginning of the movie have brought him to a point of destruction that will be difficult for him to escape. A lesson for everyone. Sometimes letting go is more beneficial than holding everything in. It's easier to succumb to the temptations that come with the power money brings, but it never reveals the dangers that lie ahead. It's necessary that everyone does their bit and leaves the issue of greed for those who truly want to learn the hard way. We draw the curtain here. Which of these facts shocked you to your core, and why was it that particular one? Please let us know in the comments, and don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons, as there are many amazing videos for you.